Hello and welcome to my tarot and oracle deck intentions for September 2025. I'm a little bit late to the party, but there is good reason for that. All of that and more later on in the video, but I will be talking about which tarot and oracle decks I'll be using this month, why I'm using them and how I plan to use them. So let's dive in. First, comment below, do you set an intention for the decks that you're going to use month by month, or do you prefer to choose them on a more intuitive level, choosing decks that you're simply drawn to on the day? The reason I'm a little bit late to the party is because it was my birthday last week and I had added a few new decks to my collection from a birthday wish list, one of which is this beautiful indie deck called the TOMAR Tarot. But more about that at the end of the video, so do stick around to see this really wonderful, unique deck. I'm so excited to share it with you. Therefore, this month's deck choices are very much about connecting with these new decks, and I'm hoping that some of these decks will help me reconnect with some decks that I have kind of neglected over the last year. Some of the new decks I bought specifically to pair with older decks that I have in my collection. First up, new to my collection then, is a couple of decks by Rebecca Campbell. I got these in the Hay House summer sale. So we have the Healing Waters Oracle and the Ancient Stones Oracle. Some of you will know I am a big fan of Rebecca's work. There's just something about the way she writes and the aesthetic that she has created and kind of the message within her body of work that has really called to me. It really draws me in. I made a decision at the beginning of the year that I was going to invest in a couple more of her decks, really because I could see the potential of using them as one big super deck, and I could see that each of them could possibly represent the different elements. So obviously earth for the Ancient Stones, water with the Healing Waters deck, rose, it's a bit of a tenuous link, but I'm thinking fire, if you think about goddess energy and that sort of thing that drives us, and she talks a lot about healing the mother line and that sort of feminine energy that goes back through our ancestors, and air for the Starseed Oracle, and this is more kind of the bigger universal picture. I haven't yet tested it out, but I have looked to see how they pair together, with the exception of the Starseed Oracle, where the artwork was by Danielle Noel. The artwork from the rest of the decks was created by Katie Louise, but they do have a very similar style, and as you can imagine, they do work beautifully together. I should say, yes, there is definitely an overlap with the themes in these decks, and I was well aware of that before I decided to get several of these decks into my collection. I have seen people complain that they are too similar. However, that doesn't really concern me, because I think sometimes we can hear messages over and over again, but sometimes we just need to hear it over and over again from different sources or from a slightly nuanced perspective. And so I'm really excited to be working with these decks together to see kind of what information they can give me on a soul and spiritual and kind of elemental level. And I must say, in the Sacred Stones Oracle, I was so happy to find this image. For those of you that don't know what this little statue is, this is the Venus of Willendorf, and she has been, I was introduced to her probably over 20 years ago when I wrote my dissertation. She was the first image that I included, so this is a very special image for me. So then the two decks that I already have, the Starseed Oracle is about your experiences but on a soul level, and then the Rose Oracle is to help you to connect with divine feminine energy, going right back to the Sacred Mother. The Healing Waters Oracle is about taking inspiration from the qualities of water. So water as a destructive force, water for cleansing, the fact that water is never in one place, it flows, and kind of how we can embody those energies in our day-to-day experiences. And in contrast, the Ancient Stones Oracle is about tapping into ancient wisdom and energies, but on a very physical, earth-based way. You know, what secrets are held within those stones, places that we might be drawn to. And obviously, if you think about the subtle energies, for those of you that are into working with crystals, how those subtle energies can be used in a positive way to refrain our mindset about things. And yeah, just really how we can best reconnect with the earth. If you think about modern life, where technology seems to have really embedded itself in the forefront of our minds, and how we can sort of step away from that, and yes, just reconnect with the earth. So sticking with oracle decks then, I also decided to add I Am Queen Oracle by Utihama. This was on my anticipated decks of 2025 list. This artwork is absolutely mind-blowing. Now, reading the information about Utihama, she works with acrylic paint. It's all been done by hand. She explores textures and layering to add additional meaning to the cards, and you know, it's a really playful deck as well, but playful with some quite deep and serious considerations. And she talks about how, particularly as women in a patriarchal society, we sort of swallow down, you know, maybe some of the characteristics that we would like to allow to shine, and we don't feel confident to do that. And so she has created this deck to help us unlock some of those aspects of ourselves that maybe we didn't feel that we could display to others. And I think that's absolutely wonderful. I've had a lot of fun pairing this deck. So this is an indie deck, Textured Tarot by Lisa McLaughlin. Incidentally, the I Am Queen Oracle started life as an indie deck, and you can find a few videos about it and what that looked like, but from what I gather, I think most people prefer the updated version. Now it's a mass market deck. Also by Lisa McLaughlin, we have the Tarot Gallimaufry, and I was actually blown away by these two as a pair. I mean, just look at these two together, just picking up a very similar vibrant colour scheme. So I'm going to have a lot of fun working with these two together. And actually, you think it shouldn't work because this is very much a nature-based deck, but I guess it depends what your aspect is. If you're trying to reclaim your ability to connect with nature with the I Am Queen deck, then I think this one would help to draw it out even more. Having said that, I'm not sure if this deck is available, but if you already have this deck and you have the I Am Queen Oracle, you might want to play with pairing with these. A tarot deck I haven't used for a while, and it was one of the first ones that I added to my collection, is the Star Spinner Tarot. Style-wise, they don't necessarily go, but in terms of bright, vibrant colours, again, they work really well together. So it's actually got me excited to want to play with my Star Spinner Tarot deck once again. Yeah, I just think these two go really well together. And actually, I'm surprised. Before I bought it, I thought, oh crikey, what am I actually going to pair this with? And then I thought, oh god, I don't know if I can pair it with anything. But I couldn't be further from the truth. It is pairing with loads of stuff. Yeah, really visually vibing with a lot of the other decks that I already have, so I'm super happy about that. This pairing really surprised me, but this is the Enchanted for Tarot. And again, it's all down to the colours. I mean, even on this one, where this is mostly sort of warm, fiery colours, you've got the greys of the face and the hair here, which is picked up on the face of this one. And yeah, they just look stunning together. You know, even from these two figures here with the sort of eye band, eye mask, which is picked up on this one. So I'm just going to have a lot of fun working with this deck. Sticking with bright, vibrant decks, we have the Lightseer's Tarot. Again, complementing each other beautifully with the red background, and then we've got the colours here of the wands, which is picked up in her owl inspired headdress. So yeah, I'm really kind of blown away by how versatile the I Am Queen Oracle is already, and I haven't even used it. I mean, look at those two together, just wonderful. And even the messages, so we have the sun here with the keywords of letting life move through. So, you know, allow the sun to shine on you, and, you know, feel that joy, let that joy move through you. I even think the I Am Queen deck will work well with my Universal Weight deck, because let's not forget, this is a very vibrant and bright deck. Having said that, this is the enhanced version, so I think Pixie's version isn't quite as bright as this one, so whether it would work with all RWS decks, but certainly the Universal, which I believe was recoloured by Mary Hanson just to modernise it, and I believe that was back in the 90s when for US Games. But yeah, I mean, even this one here, look, with the dark backgrounds and then the colourful pattern on her bed sheet there with the colourful patterns on their headdresses. Sticking with Rockpool, this was also on my anticipated decks of 2025, and shout out to the lovely Sylvan from Sylvan's Way, who did a wonderful walkthrough on this, and it finally prompted me to commit to adding this deck to my collection. I will link Sylvan's walkthrough, so you should definitely go check that out if you want a more in-depth overview of this deck. This is an animal based deck where Jessica Lahoud has used kind of animal folklore and sort of forest energies. I really love Amanda Clark's art. A contributing fact to adding the Enchanted Earth Oracle to my collection was that I really wanted a specific oracle deck to work as a clarifier for the Orion's Animal Tarot. This is also quite an early deck for me, and I haven't used it, and it's absolutely beautiful. And when I saw Sylvan Way's walkthrough of this deck, I thought, actually, yeah, this is going to go really well with the Orion's Tarot. Orion's is also an animal deck, but the Enchanted Earth Oracle has this kind of nighttime, what lurks behind the shadows of the forest vibe to it, whereas, I mean, this one is a little bit more cosmic. We've got kind of similar, this black greeny cosmic sky of the Frozen card with the similar background to our King of Swords. So yeah, they look beautiful together, and I think it's just nice to have an animal oracle deck with an animal tarot deck. And I know animal decks aren't for everyone, but I do like my nature-based and animal decks. Sticking with animal and forest theme, we have the Forest of Enchantment Tarot, and again we have a similar situation here. That's that same sky from the King of Swords card we were looking at earlier, with the Seeker of Spells. So yeah, I think these will also work beautifully together. Let's just do a couple more. I don't know about the Hush Tarot, predominantly because the Hush Tarot has the very pastel-y, muted tones. Enchanted Earth Oracle is obviously a lot more vibrant, but I think in terms of theme, kind of insights that could be gained from the natural world, I think they could possibly complement each other in a really positive way. The Hush is a challenging deck to work with, and I've recently seen a video by Feeding My Soul, who has actually turned it into an intuitive oracle deck. I'm not sure if I'm brave enough to trim my decks at the moment. Oh, look at that. We have two owls side by side there. And interestingly, sticking with this card, when I was talking about this deck in my anticipated decks of 2025 video, I paused on this image and said this: if an oracle card had ever been made for me, I think it would be this one, because I just love blacks and purples and blues. Shortly after making that video, my partner actually received this card in the post. Obviously I have commandeered it and it's now stuck up in my altar space. So I think it was, yeah, definitely this card that really made me want to get this deck. It's absolutely beautiful. The Enchanted Earth Oracle also pairs rather nicely with the Enchanted for Haxa Tarot and my Tarot of Galamalfrey. But obviously I spoke about that with the previous deck, but really just to give you a little glimpse as to how they work together. And yeah, there's a lot of foxes, in fact all three of these decks. An example of some beautiful fox action for anybody who finds the red fox charming and endearing. I know I do. I also have a feeling that this deck may even pair with the Tarot of Pagan Cats. Sticking with that animal theme. I didn't actually test this out the other day when I got this deck, but whilst I was getting my decks out, I thought, you know what, let's give it a go. Possibly, possibly not. I think colour-wise they're both quite bright decks. But it's just whether the cat energy will work with the energy of the more sort of forest-based animals. Who knows? I also added a couple of tarot decks to my collection as my birthday haul. The first being the Transient Light Tarot. Was an indie deck, now mass market with Hay House, so I got this in the Hay House sale as well. This is quite a new deck in terms of one being on my radar, but when I saw it I just loved the simplicity of it. It has a very muted colour palette of kind of a goldy brown colour, black and white, as is the Tomar Tarot, which is an indie deck, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later, but just to show you, this is a beautiful deck as well. So yeah, very similar in terms of colours. I'm going to actually talk about why I got each deck separately, but I think we'll start with the pairings because I'm going to pair them with very similar decks because of the colour palettes. First up for the pairing then is the Herbal Astrology. Although this one has a bit more colour to it, I do feel they're quite earthy tones, and obviously these decks have more of an earthy vibe to them. Interesting to note that this deck has a bit of an astrology underpinning to it. Fascinating to see if the astrology aspect of the Herbal Astrology deck links up with what this deck is saying. Sticking with an earthy feeling deck, we have the Angels and Ancestors Oracle in the centre here. Again, I think in terms of colour palette, again, this is slightly brighter, but I do feel where we're picking up kind of the ochres and the golds and the slightly darker colours, I feel like these will vibe quite nicely together. One of the reasons I bought the Transient Light Tarot was specifically for its muted colour palette, and I was hoping it would go with the Wild Woman Oracle because this has this sort of bronzy background and it's black and white drawings. And the other day when I was trying to pair them up, I wasn't kind of feeling it, but now I've got it on camera, I'm actually quite liking it. And I think the reason I had hesitations, I think it's just maybe the theme and the sort of the actual artwork style wasn't necessarily vibing for me, but now I've had a second chance, I think they could potentially work quite well together. And the same for the Tomar Tarot, and I'm almost wondering actually whether this one will pair better with the Tomar Tarot. But obviously without playing with these things, it is hard to tell. And this is one of the reasons I'm sort of going through these with you on the video, is to really help myself decide which ones I might end up pairing. But yeah, let me know what you think. Do these decks work well together? The Urban Crow Tarot probably wouldn't have been my first choice to pair with the Transient Light. However, somebody had paired the Tomar Tarot with the Urban Crow Oracle, so I thought I would give it a go. And actually, to my surprise, these two work really well together. And I think that's because the Urban Crow Oracle is really quite a dark deck. And again, very earthy tones, but I think actually they all three of them do look beautiful together. And yeah, just something about this black background, but then the black of the crows, and then when we look at these two, a lot of these characters in the Tomar Tarot have sort of black clothes but with these patterns on top, and again it just looks really wonderful with the black of the crows. So yeah, and even the sort of the reds that MJ Cullinane has used is sort of picked up, well, the yellows should we say. So yeah, I feel quite excited by this pairing. I said this before, but Season of the Witch decks do pair really well with a lot of other decks that I have in my collection, but I have selected 3 from the series of 8, so the Samhain, the Mabon and the Lammas, so think late summer, autumn, again sticking with those earth tones. These guys again look really well together because they have all the browns and the blacks and the darker colours. I would say that perhaps the Lammas is a bit of a stretch, but I think the Mabon and the Samhain do work really well, particularly with Guida Rose's art, which I think there's just a stronger sense of line work with her illustrations compared to Tijana, who doesn't tend to use much outline in her work. I just wanted to pause a little bit on the Samhain Season of the Witch, because I think, yeah, these decks just look gorgeous together, and I'm almost wondering whether these decks, so whether these two, or maybe all 3 together, would work well for shadow work. I'm saying that because the Transient Light Tarot is a deck to embrace transformation. It's one of the reasons I wanted to add it to my collection. I do feel like I've been going through this period of transformation, and maybe just needing a little bit of a prompt with that. TOMAR Tarot has links to astrology, and I think once we start going down that route of birth chart and understanding kind of our inner world a little bit more, then we have more power to feel comfortable to go through that transformation process. And with the Samhain deck obviously being the time of year that it is, that time when the veil starts to lift, and we do invite the shadows in, very dark time of year for those of you that experience seasons. I really like the simplicity of this deck. It's also, to me, feels like it's verging on a pip deck. I don't think it is officially a pip deck, because obviously there are some illustrations in there as well, but I think it's possibly maybe one of these more hybrid style decks. And I don't have a pip deck in my collection. I haven't felt the urge to want to work with them until up until recently, and so I feel like this is probably quite a good introduction with working with more simplified cards, particularly when it comes to these suit cards having fewer, less complicated images. This deck is also about helping you navigate any transformation that might be occurring in your life, and I quite liked the premise of this deck. The colour palette of it, it's quite different to many of the other decks that I have. It also has these additional past, present and future cards to help you with your 3-card reading. The deck that I am most excited to show you though is this TOMAR Tarot by Deborah Allen. Deborah Allen is called Tarot, Magic and Reason on Instagram, and this is how I discovered her deck, and it's absolutely beautiful. Now, as far as I can tell, there aren't many copies of this deck about. According to her website, she had about 30 copies. This is a sample pack, so it did come with this lovely little drawstring bag with the TOMAR Tarot stamp. And it currently doesn't come with a printed guidebook. You can download a PDF, which I believe took her about 5 years to write. Now, most excitingly is Deborah was looking for some beta readers to help proofread her manuals, and I was lucky enough to be sent these when I ordered the deck. So it's been printed out just on loose pages, but you can see how much work has gone into it. And I've only really just scratched the surface. I think I've read about halfway through this book since receiving it. But it's a real deep dive into the cards. So major arcana cards here, minor arcana, and these books include Deborah's wonderful illustrations throughout the book, and it really is another way of looking at reading tarot cards, a system that I've not come across. Different ways of doing a 3-card spread, and just shifting the perspective, and as I said, I haven't read enough of the book to really comprehend the enormity of the work that Deborah has put into this, but I'm very excited to get to grips with this and to deepen my understanding of tarot. What excites me the most about this is in book 2 she covers astrological correspondence, taking inspiration from the Tree of Life and how these ideas fit together. Some of you will know that I've been using Liz Dean's Ultimate Guide to Tarot and David Wells's Tree of Life Oracle to help me explore the Tree of Life and how that connects with the meaning of the tarot cards. This system by Deborah Allen is going to enhance my understanding of that, and I do hope to do a bit more of a review of this deck once I've got to grips with it, but I just wanted to show you a little bit more of the artwork and how these cards look together. There is this wonderful line work accompanied by these intricate patterns created with very simple lines, but I think it's just visually stunning, and I really do love the style of these cards. As always, I really do appreciate you choosing to hang out and watch my videos about which decks I'm using. So in summary, this month is going to be all about bonding and connecting with the new decks that I have added to my collection and really playing with pairs. So I'm going to keep it really open. Let me know what you're doing this month, and also let me know, do you have any of these decks? How do you use them? Which decks do you pair them with? And which pairings were your favourites out of the ones that I shared with you? I'd love to hear your thoughts. And until the next video, here are a couple of other videos you can watch in the meantime. Sending you love wherever you are, and I hope you find some peace and happiness throughout your day. I'm Sally, this is my channel, Vaudeville Manor, House of Art and Tarot. Bye bye.